if you're sad, if you're not happy, right? If you can't go to sleep, all of that is made in the gut. So if you want to perform, we gotta always get back to the gut and figure out, why am I getting fatigued?
Today on the Gut Health Reset podcast, we're covering how athletic performance is actually influenced by the gut, how food sensitivity can make a huge difference in being a good athlete to actually a great athlete, why you should ditch the fast food and be careful of sports recovery drinks that are supposed to improve performance, and that is in quotation marks, and how pain, cortisol, and sleep all can be linked back to the gut. And we talk about the pillars of health that make a great athlete. Navin Hettiarachchi, the former director of health and wellness and performance for the Washington Wizards basketball team in the NBA and healthcare provider to the celebrity and stars. He is a top-rated podcast host to Thrive with Navin, which successful and influential people around the world share their number one piece of advice to uplift and up-level the lives of his audience. He is on a mission to help people around the world empower themselves proactively to take the best care of their health and live their best lives, happy, healthy, and pain-free. Thank you so much, Navin, for being with us here today. I'm just so excited to have you and your background. It's just so exciting to dig in to this big topic of athletic performance and how athletic performance is really influenced by the gut. So tell me, how did you get into this field? And then we're going to dig into athletic performance in the gut, if that sounds good.
Dr. Emery, thank you so much for having me. I love your podcast. I love everything about you. That's why I'm like so resonating with you. What I love about you is that, it's just connecting the dot, right? We cannot take our gut from our sleep. We can't take our sleep from mindfulness. We can take our mindfulness from performance. So it's really part of who we are and part of that you do as a streamer, right? You adjust the neck, then you talk about the gut, right? Like it's just entangled. The way that I got into this is it's really about biohacking performance. What can we do that we could up level our performance, and then really about what can we do that's, I call it, free 99, that doesn't cost us supplements or IVs or like hyperbaric chamber, right? Like I have had all access to all this, but what are little things that we could do to optimize our performance? And it's really about bringing the inflammation down. It's not about how hard that you could work today, but how fast can you recover so you could come tomorrow? It's about, I see guys after practice, they're icing their knees and getting massages and sauna and float tank and cryo chamber, but they take their $400,000 Rolls Royce right through a fast food chain, right? That just really kind of like an aha moment, like, wow, you putting bad gas on your car, quote unquote, your body. And then next day when you come in, you're like, oh man, I'm struggling. I'm bloated. I'm irritated. They smell really bad, right? Their skin, you could smell it, right? They're spraying deodorant, all this stuff. And we are not going back to the root cause. But what we do in professional sports or in anything, right? You're like, hey, this is some acid refluxes. Hey, some Pepto-Bismol. Like, honestly, we probably go through Pepto-Bismol like packets and packets every day in professional sports because nobody really talks about the gut. Gut is like on the backside, it's about what we put into the body. So when I kind of saw these amazing results coming to my life by doing a food testing and figuring out what food works for these athletes, all of a sudden, Dr. Barter, like I was able to save surgeries by changing the food. Like incredible stories.
Totally. I 100% agree. I see it day in and day out. It's huge. Inflammation in the body is a big key factor in everything. And then if you want to get to that elite level in athletic performance, you have to dial that in, right? So how in the world does gut link up with athletic performance? Because when we think about athletic performance, we really think about, oh, let's dial in nutrition. What's the diet? And all of those things are very important, but we don't think about how the gut has a big influence in athletic performance. So would you mind just going into that a little bit more?
So, you kind of said it. It is part of the nutrition is because it starts from the mouth, is what we put in. The biggest thing that we do wrong is we don't figure out what is the best for that athletes, right? Based on their maybe stool testing, food sensitivity, gut sensitivity. Maybe I could take another level and we could say based on the DNA profile, right? Where they came from, where the ancestors came from. So I think it really starts from bad food that we put in our gut because we don't really think like we think, if you look at a quote unquote world's number one electrolyte drink, right? It has color number 40, dextrose, natural flavors, right? And got ingredients that we cannot even pronounce. So we don't associate what we put in our mouth affect the gut, and that causes inflammation. That causes our serotonin, dopamine, happy pill, high pill, excitement pill. So it does matter. It does matter when you eat something for a 7 o'clock game. If you put all these chemicals into your body, or if you eat something that you're sensitive to, as insensitive as it might not show up like you're breaking up. People think, oh, I'm not sensitive to peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, you're not breaking up, but it's making you slower 0.001%. Right? And you add that 1% every time at the end of the season, now you know why your knees hurting, why you're bloated, why you're irritated, why this thing is chronically bothering you. It started from your mouth. So gut is, I would say, people say gut is our second brain. To be honest with you, I want to say the gut is our first brain because that is like the main train station. Everything goes, right? Vegas nerves. I mean, Dr. Barter, people are always like, oh, I need melatonin, I need to go to sleep. Where is melatonin produced, right? Where is serotonin produced? Like we are forgetting the machine that makes all these incredible hormone or things that we need to thrive, not survive, thrive.
Exactly. What's interesting is I love to ride bikes. Like I'm a huge avid bike rider, and my diet has always been pretty clean, but I was eating a lot of eggs, and I think you've got a similar thing here, but I was eating a lot of eggs. And I remember going out on a bike ride one morning and just feeling completely nauseous, and I couldn't keep up with everybody else. And I was like, okay, I've got to get to the bottom of this. This was years and years ago. And so I ran a food sensitivity test. Lo and behold, I am very sensitive to eggs. So I decided, I had done a lot of gut fixing and cleaning up, et cetera. And so I wanted to try to reincorporate eggs because sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So before I went backcountry skiing, which is kind of an aggressive sport, I went out there, and I'm not really a big drinker. I rarely drink. So if you see me drinking, it's like twice a year. So anyway, I went out backcountry skiing, and I was so nauseous, and I looked hungover to all the people that I was with. I had had a plate of eggs that morning. I had to go back and go to the car. And so that was what 2 eggs did to me. And so I'd like to kind of hear what you are seeing with the same thing around athletic performance.
I love it. Well, so let's tie in an egg story that I have that just literally happened last week. Leaky gut. I think literally. You probably know this number better, right? Right, like 90% people got dysbiosis, right? Like it's just a crazy amount.
Dysbiosis is pretty high. I don't know. Yeah, I would probably say it's close to 90% of dysbiosis. Leaky gut's I think it's a little lower number than 90%.
Okay, like in athletic population, it's even higher because of the canola oil, the palm oil, the wheat, the processed food that you talked about going biking. Like, look at my wife is a triathlon. Like before, I would say before last 6 years, I didn't even think about this, but like I'm the one who's getting her glues, gels, waffles, and all this stuff that's really causing to inflammation. So going back to the egg story, this athlete, he tore his MCL, and obviously it's grade 3, and they want to have surgery. And this kid's like,
Can you tell people what an MCL is if they're not
oh,
familiar with the
sorry.
terminology?
So MCL is a medial collateral ligament, and it's one of the ligaments. So think about a table with 4 legs, right? So those are kind of the 4 main ligaments in our leg. So imagine your table, you lose a leg, right? Now you can't put anything on the table, right? It's wobbly. So this is what happened to this kid. He lost one of the legs in the table. We're gonna call the leg MCL, medial collateral ligament, and that's really a surgical case. He went to like over 4 doctors. Obviously, he's a professional athlete, so consulting, and everyone's like, "We gotta have a surgery." And this kid's like, "If I have a surgery, I'm gonna be done for the year because NBA regular season just finished." So he was like, "I don't want to finish it." So he started the conservative management, and the first thing when I see an athlete, the first thing that I do, obviously everything starts from food, right? So we want to make sure that he's eating the right food. So first, literally, we did a food sensitivity test, and like you talked about it, eggs popped up, and eggs are something this kid eat every day. Like, so he was really high for eggs, super sensitive. So we took eggs out, and I'm not even kidding you. Within days, he's like, "Wow, my knee's getting better. Like, I feel better." And then all of a sudden, he lost 17 pounds in 1 month. He came back to playing basketball in 8 weeks. And he even quoted on the paper saying, "I'm dunking. I've never been able to dunk, and I'm running." So that one little thing, obviously, yeah, we're doing rehab and everything else like every other human being. But what was the game change is that we took that something that's causing inflammation, causing chronic inflammation, causing cortisol, right? So like think about like we just gotta stack it. People don't really think about how everything stack on each other. So you introduce this egg to his body, that's causing inflammation, that's hurting the knee, then it's causing stress, cortisol, fight or flight, because that's an artificial ingredient, not artificial, that's something maybe like a sort of artificial thing in your body that you don't like, causing cortisol, can't go to sleep, right? Now you're sleep deprived, you're mentally, your mind not mindful, right? So everything stacking, now we are minus 10% every day, minus 10% every day, right? You can't heal. So as soon as he took that out and we started adding 10% every day, cortisol came down, inflammation came down, all of a sudden this kid felt like he was younger. So it's very important to look at the gut, treat the gut, and obviously find an expert like you to seeing if you did your part, like if you done your part, saying as an athlete, you are not getting any processed oil or processed food, you're eating proper diet, then I think we need to find an expert like you. We got to do a stool sample and we got to see what kind of parasite is growing, right? But before we get to the expert, we have to do our part on taking care of ourselves. If not, we go to the expert, then we are losing all that time because we didn't do the back end work. It's so important to heal the gut. I honestly think, like I was just saying, like, no matter how injured you are, no matter what level of athlete it is, I always start with the gut. We gotta figure out what's going on. And to figure out what's going on, we gotta put the right food. Like somebody said, people are putting probiotic. First of all, we gotta figure out if it's the right probiotic. Then are we seeding it? Are we growing it? Kind of going into another story. I have a friend, let's call him Bobby.
Can I interrupt you real quick? I think you made just such a great point, and I want to make sure that we don't gloss over this, because when people think of pain, like with the MCL tear in the knee, people think of, okay, I need to do physical therapy exercises. I need to go see my chiropractor. I need to get a cortisol or cortisone injection, to help my cortisol levels, to help with my pain. We just think pain, this is the way we go. And so I think what you brought up is just such a critical point, because if you have chronic inflammation, you're going to have more pain. And so if the treatments aren't working, that means that you have systemic inflammation in your body. And I don't want to gloss over that piece. And I think the other point that you made that I think is very, very important to just reiterate is, number one, you have to see what strains of probiotics you're deficient in. And so some people will take probiotics and they'll be very helpful, and then they'll stop working. Well, it could be that you need to switch or vary what you're doing because you've got enough of XYZ strands, and now you need to move on to something else. And or you also maybe want to do a prebiotic to build just everything else on top of each other. So it's really important to get to get an idea, because certain things help with weight loss, certain things help with athletic performance, etc. So I just really want to make sure that we just hit that as well. And this is kind of the difference on why some people heal better than other people, and it's not. So I think that that's a great point. So I just wanted to make sure that we really hit that. So anyway, okay, your next story. So tell me about that.
That's so true. I want to kind of jump on that. Think about it. As soon as you get hurt, most of the time these athletes are in some kind of, I don't want to say antibiotics, but most of the time they're in some kind of meds, right? Most of them pain meds. Sometimes it's over-the-counter meds. So they're in meds that really kills our microbiome. That really kills our healthy bacteria, right? And then you cannot expect to take a probiotic and all of a sudden expect, right, these trees to go. It takes time for these trees to go. And then it's just kind of like you're taking anti-inflammatory pills that's killing the ecosystem, and you're taking 2 probiotics to get better. But at the same time, we are forgetting that everyone's eating a bad nutrition plan, right? So no one's really talking about fermented foods or kefir or raw milk or garlic or avocado, or apple cider vinegar. We always want pills, right? I mean, sometimes I almost wonder, is it even working for us? Is it bioavailable? Like you said, there's 10 different companies that's selling it. Why can't we really start from food? And then, like you said, then we could go and see, okay, I'm eating this food, and I'm missing this strain. Now we could add it. Now we just go from our Ferrari to some super fuel injection. Now we could run like a Ferrari. If not, we have a Ferrari, we're just tinkering with wrong, cheap gas and expect it to run. So that's absolutely 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the mentality has been so much of that when, for example, when in practice, I'm doing a lot of things and I kind of go back to the diet. Let's say someone's 80% better and I go back to the diet. Sometimes that hurdle is so great for people to do that because they've got their convenient foods, they've got their alcohol, they've got their drugs, they've got their cigarettes. It's a really hard habit to break and to change, or, their ibuprofen or whatever it is, sleep medication, it's XYZ you added in. And it's just hard for us to break those cycles, to really sort of make those lifestyle changes, because those changes are going to happen slowly. Just like you said, 1%, 1%, 1%. I think that the misconception is I'm going to do XYZ and I'm going to be 70% better. Sometimes that happens. But a lot of times it's like this change makes 5%, this change makes 7%, that makes 18%, and it builds on each other just like it built down. So yeah, anyway, great.
Doctor, I got another funny story. It's kind of funny to me because, speaking about gut microbiome health, a lot of these young kids, right, they literally grew up on four things, right? They might eat maybe the same cornbread or the chicken every single day. So if you're eating the same food, your microbiome diversity is not there, right? It doesn't matter what kind of probiotic that you take. So I have a funny story.
Yes.
So,
Love it.
this kid, again, an NBA athlete, and I found that every time, kind of quote unquote off season, he doesn't have his hip pain, right? So obviously through an MRI, the MRI pretty much every joint, so we know that there's a little bit of labor tear. And doctors want to have like kind of obviously repair, right? When you go to ortho, they want to repair. So I'm like, there's something going on, and it's get better when he goes home, and it gets worse when we travel. Like when we're on the road, this thing is hot. So I'm like, is it something to do with sleep? So I kind of ruled out everything. Okay. So we ruled out everything. Then because I took care of the nutrition for the team, I have access to the hotel contact. So I was just kind of curious to see what this kid was eating. So believe it or not, so I called my hotel contact, and then I got his rooming list, right? We were in a long road trip. I remember we were in like Milwaukee, Minnesota, LA, and Portland, like literally like 7 cities. And I got his rooming list. Every day it's the same thing, right? And I remember so much that every day it's a cheesecake and a Sprite. I'm like, wow, this is his thing, right? Then I'm like, all right, now let me I'll put that in my memory bank. I'm like checking his hip. Hip is tight every time you're on the road. When we come home, it's not tight. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm started talking to the kid like, hey, what did you eat? I'm at home. What did you eat? So that thing never came up, the cheesecake. So I'm like, all right, there's something with the cheesecake. So then we actually did a food sensitivity test. Very lactose intolerant. We took that out, and literally that hip, I still today, the story is probably about 10 years ago, and still today he never had surgery on the left hip. So we know that one food, it literally trigger bad microbiome, literally tighten his hip where he need to have surgery. So that's another story that we could say that having the proper food, having the proper microbiome, and I think a big key that you preach all the time: diverse microbiome. We need everything, a little bit of everything. Somebody showed the other day a picture of Hadza, and they're like, yeah, Hadza, they have fiber, they have the best sealing gut. Dr. Amory, I saw the picture, and that's it's about like this, like a size of a quarter, but there were like 6 different things. So they were getting, it's obviously so tiny amount, but they were getting diverse amount of tubers and vegetables. That's why their gut is good. But if you look at us, standard American diet, the SAD diet, we only get 4 different food every single time, right? People could be like, hey, I eat healthy. Okay, sweet potatoes, broccoli, and steak and salmon. It's not diverse enough.
Yes, I can see that. And we've talked about diet is super powerful to boost athletic performance, and, really figuring out what your food sensitivities are, really healing up the gut. What are some other factors that really influence our athletic performance? And they can be associated with the gut or not. But I'd like to know what else really is going to push people, especially those weekend warriors, to the next level.
First thing, when you asked me this question, first thing kind of came to my mind, because of I know what you do, pathogens. I think, most of the time there's a pathogen in there. Hey, triathletes, right? My wife goes on swimming in this dirty water, right? Something going to jump in there, right? So we want to kind of take a look at it. We need to see an expert like you, like even with me, a few months ago, we were in Tanzania, Zanzibar, Istanbul. Cool. The water, the stuff that we are not used to, so stuff going to come in. So look, listen to the gut feeling. Like, we know, trust your gut. When you feel like there's something in your gut, most likely that's something in your gut. So we need to see an expert. So that's one thing that just really came to my mind. I love the gut. I trust the gut. So know your gut. So that's what I want to tell the listeners and the weekend warriors. The second thing is kind of like what we just talked about. If you're sad, if you're not happy, right? If you can't go to sleep, all of that is made in the gut. So if you want to perform, we gotta always get back to the gut and figure out, why am I getting fatigued? Why am I getting why am my knee constantly hurting? Why can't I go to sleep? Right? Yes, we want to put glasses, we want to turn the room down, all that is fine. But are we having the proper foundation to process all that, to make the melatonin? Or we could talk about cortisol, right? Because of the gut, because of the dysbiosis, because of the ecology in the gut is not proper, cortisol curve is off, right? Dr. Hammer, you see people, their cortisol curve is flipped. They're so low in energy in the morning, they need 10 cups of coffee, and they're, what do you call it? Wired, tired, but wired at night.
I call it wired but tired. Yep.
Wired but tired. So this cortisol curve is all flipped up. Okay, well, it doesn't matter if you take cortisol or cortisol calm, all these supplements. What is the root cause, right? The root cause is the gut. Let's go back to the root cause. And that's what I love about you, is that you treat root cause medicine, and people are so lucky to have somebody like you to figure out, like, okay, let's figure out the root cause, and let's treat that instead of putting a bandage, right? If not, we're going to put a bandage for the glucose, we're going to put a bandage for insulin, we're going to put a bandage for migraine, we're going to put a bandage for cholesterol. But let's get to the root cause. And I think root cause is really the gut. I mean, we could even go on a tangent about insulin resistance, right? Gut. So to answer your question, I don't think I answered your question. First of all, to improve your performance, we got to dial in our cross the T and dot the I's. We got to take care of ourselves. So I think what I love about, like, I kind of call it the 4 pillars, is this nutrition. Let's dial in our nutrition, the food that works for you. I call it a thumbprint diet, the food that works for your gut. It's different for me, it's different for Dr. Emery, but through finding an expert or somebody who's listening to this podcast, they don't want to spend the time and the money to find an expert, do elimination diet, see how you feel, right? Try this brand, try the avocado, try not drinking the coffee, try drinking the tea, like eliminate it and see how you feel. Remember, everything goes back to the gut. Our Hippocrates said, like, listen to the gut, everything in the gut really matters. So do your part on the nutrition. Then I would say the next pillar is do your part on the sleep. And if you're not sleeping well, because it's creating inflammation and you can't perform, well, let's figure out why you're not sleeping well. Okay. Then I would say the third pillar is being mindfulness, because when we are not mindfulness, again, we are causing cortisol, we are causing inflammation. We got to be mindful. And if you can't be mindful, let's go back and see why we are not being mindful. What is the root cause? So it's kind of getting back to root cause, but getting back to what your specific person needs, because everybody who listens to this is very unique, has very individualized needs, the job, the sport, the family. So we just got to treat you as an individual person. And that's where, the expert like Dr. Anne Marie comes in.
Yeah. And would you say, like, the one thing that I see is people have a really hard time with mindfulness. And I think our lifestyles are just so busy, so crazy. We add too much to our plate. We think that we can do too much. And we know that that's overwhelming. That changes cortisol. That has an effect on the gut microbiome. That decreases our absorption because we're stressed out. Our body thinks we're running from a bear all the time. So, I mean, I think it's just so important to slow down and to really look at, mindfulness, meditation, prayer, however that looks for you, to really incorporate into your life. What have you noticed too? There's a lot of, nutritional supplements around, like, for example, vitamin B vitamins, vitamin C, for repair of collagen, etc. Like, where have you figured those have fit in, and have you seen any boost with athletic performance using some of basically basic nutrients and vitamins?
Dr. Bada, I want to say something that you just mentioned about the more mindfulness and motivation. Like, where does the serotonin, dopamine, and GABA made? Gut. So if you want to be happy, if you want to be mindfulness, gotta go back to the gut. And again, it's the food. So about the vitamins, the collagen, the bone broth, big fan of it. Vitamin D, big fan of it. We just gotta make sure that we want to get as close as we can possibly to the real thing, right? Eating the plant that needed the sun and the ground and the water, right? And the cow ate 100% grass. When you get the collagen or the meat, if not, we're eating the amyloids, the stress hormone they got because how they were stressed before they were slaughtered, or what kind of food that they ate. So we want to make sure that we're sourcing it properly. I think same thing goes with the vitamin C's, the B's, the D's. That we want to make sure that we are sourcing it properly, and so that's for a person who um, doesn't want to get an expert like you to kind of take a look at it. But I think athlete or all of us, I think there's a point that at least once a year, let's look at how your lab marks are, right? I think we kind of get this. We have a block of 10 foods that we like and we eat all the time. Maybe they are nutritionally depleted, right? Maybe the spinach that you're eating coming from California that was cut a week ago was in Whole Foods for 10 days. So there's nothing in there. So we are thinking we're eating a proper food, but we might not be getting the nutritional value. So I think that's where the lab test comes in, Dr. Barter. Like, I don't want to constantly tell people lab. I want to know, but it's just like your car, right? You always look at the gas, the check engine lights, right? You know how the oil level. So that's, and we take it to Jeffy Lube or whoever to figure out what we need. So I think we have a point, not conventional medicine where we're going to say, hey, 25 vitamin D is okay, but I think we need to go to another point, another level, and go to functional medicine to figure out what we need, what's happening with our insulin, what's happening with our A1C, what's happening with our glucose. Because first of all, we need to know the UCAN or the ketones, what are they doing? Because you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to your body. If they have an adverse effect, the bar that you eat, even though it has so many good things, then we are hurting ourselves. We are paying money and hurting ourselves. So to answer your question, I think all of us need to really get tested to figure out the food that we're eating is really giving us the micro and macro nutrients that we need.
I'll tell you, over and over again, running tests, I see like significantly reduced a lot of times, probably about 50% of the time, vitamin B2 and B6. And so that's not, and sometimes certainly B12 and B9, but there's a lot more education around that. And vitamin C, I see low in so many people because our food is so depleted in vitamin C, and we need that for infections, and that gets depleted every time we get exposed to a viral infection. And, that is so critical for everything, for skin health, for, collagen repair, for treating viral infections. The list goes bacterial infections, the list goes on and on. And so it's really interesting to see, because no one person is the same. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this for about 12 years. And I push for lab testing because even with the experience, I'm only about 80% right the entire time without running the lab testing, because to your point, everybody is so individualized. And so sometimes I guess and can get it right on, but most of the time I really need that lab testing to really be able to determine. So I think that's awesome. Are there anything that you do that you think is a game changer that we haven't discussed for overall health?
I think every year I have gotten into testing myself to figure out, honestly, like, okay, salt. Okay, I want to see the panel of what I really need, what I'm observing. Or let me try to do my DNA test so I know that I have a snippet that I need more vitamin Bs. So the vitamin Bs that are extra taken in, how is that affecting me? So test, treat, retest. I think something that I have gotten into my personal life more and more, and I think that kind of have gotten into my athletes and my patients. You just got to figure out what's going on. It might not be even a nutrition thing. It might be, I don't want to say like, woo, maybe the flight that we are traveling all the time, right? We know that's a microbiome effect by traveling, right? We know that circadian rhythm has a microbiome impact. So we could be eating all the right food, but if you're in an airplane 4 times a week, right? If you're in 3 time zones every week, that kills your gut microbiome. So we need help, we need support. And that support that support does not come in a one pill. We just gotta figure out how that support is coming from. And like you said, like the food, nothing has magnesium anymore. Soil is so depleted. So we just gotta figure out so we could add the proper essential minerals, right? The salt, I want to make sure that they have the proper minerals in there. So really customize it. To answer your question, I think try to really customize it and just constant evaluation. You sit in your car, you look at your dashboard to see your gas level. You get on the bike and you check the PSI. Why don't you do the same thing to yourself? Why don't you check your PSI? Check your PSI on your resting heart rate, your HRV, your sleep quality, how many times you breathe a minute, right? We as a human being, we want to optimize our bike, we want to optimize our Ferrari, but we forget the most important person to optimize is us. When we optimize ourselves, not about everybody's like living, but that's another level. It's called thriving, and you're high on life, but like you're literally high on life, and when you get to that level, it's just like you're flying.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Where can listeners find you if they want to get in touch with you?
So I got a brand new website. I never had a website, so I created a website. It's called navinhealth.com. Then I have an IG. It's at Navin, NAVIN.HET. And that's my social media.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Just awesome to get your perspective on these things and just being in this world for a while. It's just cool to see, how gut has really had an impact on athletic performance. So thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Gut Health Reset podcast. Please make sure you subscribe, leave a rating and a review so more people can hear about the podcast. And hey, take a screenshot of this episode and tag Dr. Anne-Marie on Instagram or Facebook at Dr. Anne-Marie Barter. And for more resources, just visit drannemariebarter.com.